Welcome to Empower and Evolve, and I'm your host, Dunstan, and thanks for coming into today's episode. Now, this podcast is designed for those looking to break free from stagnation and enhance their well-being through actionable insights and inspiring stories. So you'd never miss an episode, hit that follow button and follow us through our social media accounts. Now, if you find value in our discussions, consider sharing this podcast with friends who you think might benefit listening today. Now let's get started on this journey of empowerment and transformation. Hi, Dun here, and thanks for coming back to Empower and Evolve. And now for this week, I received a very weird question. And it goes something like this. If there's one habit you can build to be mindful every day, what is it? And in the past episodes, for the past year or so, I've been thinking about the mindfulness activities that we've shared. There was even an activity sheet before that I did in the first few seasons in year one. But what is that really one habit you can do? So for today, we'll dive a little bit more about understanding what mindfulness is, and at the latter half, we'll talk about, some of the more practical tips, I guess, that you can do in terms of building that one habit. You can select one of those 7 actions that I have that you can do to be mindful every day. So for now, get a comfy seat. If you're listening on your earphones on your way to work or school, or you're just already closing out your day and enjoying a nice cup of coffee, sit back, relax, and let's dive in. Now, I'd like to start this episode and talking about mindfulness with a quote. And the quote goes like this: "Be where you are, otherwise you will miss your life." This is a quote from Buddha, and I've been reflecting on this quote for, I guess, the past few days, thinking about how does it really be be where you are right now and understanding that situation for you to be able to experience mindfulness. And mindfulness in itself is not just the practice of paying attention to the present, right? Without judgment, but being able to understand and incorporate what you see, hear, feel, think during that moment to enhance your overall well-being or to put you in a better situation, right? Real talk, right? When we were growing up, I remember one of my uncles telling me that you have to think before you speak. Right? Because any word or any phrase that comes out of your mouth, especially if it's hurtful to another person, will leave a stigma with them. And thinking about that experience with my uncle, I realized that at a very young age, even in the 4 corners of the house, mindfulness is being taught to us. Right? So mindfulness now is not just about understanding what we feel, understanding what we think, understanding, what is directly around us. But it puts us in a situation now where we're also putting that conscious effort on how we interact within the surroundings. Now, you might be thinking, "Hey Dan, that's difficult and it's time consuming." Right? Remember that, especially if you're trying to build that mindfulness, you start off, of course, by understanding, is there something that I have been saying or a behavior that I've been doing that maybe triggers something negative or something repulsive, right? That others don't like me doing. And I guess that's the more obvious way of being mindful, because if you hear that feedback and you understand that feedback and you want to start doing something about it, then you're already in the first phase of being mindful, being careful, being tactful, right? And and I'll just play around with the idea of mindfulness, right? I mean, now we might be thinking, so we just have to being mindful is just being careful with how we act and talk in front of others, right? Now, when you also talk about mindfulness, it also helps you to change your perspective about things or about the situation. Maybe you want to call it being positive about things, being optimistic about things, right? Those are two different things. But to make it simpler, you've learned to find joy in the situation. Whether it's a difficult one, it's that mindfulness that teaches you lessons in life and makes you and helps you enjoy life to the fullest, right? So, if you are mindful now, we'll define it now as being able to use all of your senses, being able to incorporate that with your values and principles, being able to be careful on how we interact towards others in a sense of understanding that there should be respect, whether these are for elders, whether these are for younger people that we're engaging with, or it's just the respect for yourself, being a person, being a human being, right? Now, there are a couple of things that you can actually do. And just like I mentioned, the second half of this episode, we'll talk about actionable items that you can do to build the mindfulness habit. Now, you'd realize that the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning is open your eyes, right? Look around you and maybe check your mobile phone. I don't know. Some check their mobile phone, some pray, some drink a glass of water, some go to the toilet. I mean, there could be different habits that you could do in the first 10 minutes as soon as you wake up, right? And when you think about that, that's already an act of being mindful. Because I'll just use and correlate the things that I mentioned, right? If you're a person that wakes up in the morning, goes directly to the bathroom, goes directly to grab water, right? You're mindful about your physical well-being because you want to take a leak or you feel very thirsty, right? So there is a sense of a body scan, right? A body scan meditation, a body scan mindfulness approach. If you're a person now who maybe when you wake up checks the mobile phone for messages or checks your socials, you're a person now who also wants to be mindful of your environment, what's happening in your network, in your friends, right? It varies, of course, what values do you have and what principles do you have. Some people I know the first thing that they do when they wake up before even really jumping out of the bed is to pray. Some that people I know would text their partners, good morning, I just woke up, send a little communication, right? And these are very simple mindfulness techniques that you can do. Now, moving to the next approach of being mindful as a small habit that you can do, right? And this is very applicable for someone who is busy, goes through the hustle and bustle of a daily life, whether you're in school, whether you're at work, right? Just spend 5 minutes, sit in a corner, close your eyes, and do yoga breathing. Or should I say, another term to use it that we use is called mindfulness breathing. And when you do mindfulness breathing, right, it helps you to relax, right? Because you're only focusing on your breath. The moment you inhale, slowly, and the moment you exhale, as the air leaves your body, right? You don't think about anything else around you and just focus on your thoughts, focus on your breathing, right? It helps you to relax, actually. I love doing this one, especially if a day is really, really long and I need to take a quick breather. This is one technique that I would really recommend, right? And just to add to that, especially especially when I was working in the BPO space, I take walks maybe every hour and a half, just a 2 minute, 3 minute walk around my floor, operations floor. Now, if you're in the office, that may mean you going to the copier and photocopying some papers, or maybe going to another department's office. And that 2 minute walk, actually, it helps you to clear your mind. You know, what I would recommend here is, if you're trying to clear your mind, as you walk, focus on the idea that you're trying to clear your mind, or focusing and thinking about the idea. Another approach is, when you talk about, taking that walk, is, let's say you're going to the office, you're taking the public transport, or you have to walk from the parking lot to your school, to the office, or school parking lot to the school, right? That 3 5 minute walk, focus on your steps, focus on your breathing, focus on everything that's around you, the noise, the colors that's around you, right? And that's important. Why? When you try to train your senses, whether it's your motor skills, your sense of smell, your sense of sight, right? It helps you to calm yourself. It helps you to increase your focus, right? The same thing goes as well if you're eating. I mean, I'm a guilty person that I finish my lunch in 5 10 minutes. I just literally devour my food. But I've met people, when I have lunch with them, pretty much they consume the whole hour eating. And it's not like they're eating a ton load of food. They're just enjoying every bite, paying attention to the taste of the food, the texture of the food, and they just focus on that sensation, and they feel the joy of eating, right? You know, and when I think about mindful eating in this scenario, have you ever thought why fast food is cheaper than fine dining? Maybe because, and I guess obviously, the experience of your fine dining is totally different from the fast food. When you go to fine dining, they only serve you small portions. However, there's that layer of complexity of flavors, textures, and sensations when you try to eat fine dining. And that's what you're paying, that extra amount, whether it's, dollars or in pesos, like here in the Philippines. That's the difference of eating fine dining. But if you're just really, really hungry, I mean, and not really mindful, and you don't want to savor and enjoy the meal, feeding not only your tummy but your sensations, fast food's fine, right? Fast food's fine, or even the canteen is fine. Now, maybe just my last two or three, in terms of, acts or things that you can do as a form of being mindful, is listening, right? Being able to listen with full intent. And normally, when you go into a conversation with another person, especially if you have a lot of ideas, you would tend to talk more, just like me. I have so many things in my head that I want to share with you guys. But, of course, I have to be mindful that sometimes silence is always better, especially if you're trying to communicate. Because when you start to hear other people and be mindful and think about, where are they coming from? How are they feeling right now? What was the idea that they really wanted to share with you? Then you can process all of these and act and respond appropriately, right? A lot of relationships end up breaking up, not in good terms because there's miscommunication. There's that assumption that, my partner would understand me already because we've been living together for X number of years, or my wife or my husband of 10 years should already know how I'm feeling if I just frown. I mean, that's something you'd like to have 100% all the time. But mind you, that's not always the case, right? Because the other person's perspective, basing on his or her senses, is different from your personal experience and what your senses are telling you. So being mindful of that as well when you communicate starts off by listening and observing. If you remember in one of my episodes before, stop, look, and listen. That's a very short activity that you can do. That every time you're communicating with someone, you stop. You look at their expression and listen to the words that they're saying before you start to respond and process that word. Answering the question, what do they feel? How do they look like? Do they feel frustrated? Do they feel sad? What's the emotion they're projecting, right? And then the listen part, what are the exact facts that they're trying to say? And processing that, you'd be able to respond better, right? And that's mindful. It starts off with mindful listening or mindful observing, right? My last two, of course, is this is something you do every morning or every late at night. Some people spend 5 minutes to think about what their plan for the day is. Right? What's their top 3 things that they want to complete for the day? And in the evening, you can do is from the 3 things that I was planning to do for the day, which of the things was I able to accomplish? And what is my plan for the following day? Right? So, when you have that evening or morning reflection, I mean, that's just an example of doing prioritization as being embedded as part of your reflection. It is also good that when you wake up in the morning, you ask yourself, how do I feel today? That's a very good question you ask yourself. Another way as well of being mindful is looking at yourself in the mirror when you wake up. No, look at how can you smile in front of the mirror? Can you laugh in front of the mirror? Was there an idea that ran in your day that that lingers in your head that makes you smile? Right? Those are mindfulness activities. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do, right? And my last one for this list is being able to express and appreciate moments of gratitude. Right? Why? Because if you're able to practice gratitude, saying thank you. I can't reiterate how many times I've said and mentioned that thank you is one of the strongest phrases that you can use. Whether you're talking to people, and every time you're engaging with people, whether you're someone opened a door for you, or you did something good for another person. I'm sorry. Saying thank you is very important, right? It's a form of communication, and it's a way of building relationships, right? When you start feeding gratitude and moments and acts of gratitude in your system, it slowly transforms your mindset. It slowly helps you to become more positive in life in general. Maybe as simple as makes your day better, especially if your day hasn't been running really good, right? Doesn't hasn't been running the way you planned it, when you meditated in the morning and you're starting to feel frustrated, but somebody said thank you to you because you did something good for them, it makes it lighter. The remaining of the day, it just fuels you to accomplish things and in the right mindset. Not just because you have to just do it, or do this or do that, right? It's more of you having that energy and that enthusiasm to accomplish it, right? So that's a lot of suggestions you can do. Again, every person has a preference. Like in my case, my personal preference, I always practice the act of gratitude and being mindful, taking those mindful walks. Whenever I want to clear my head, if I want to be back and put my head back to my neck, right, so to speak, and be here at the moment. Whenever I do public talks, I also take walks just to prep myself because I want to be focused. And I hope that, some of the ideas and the suggestions I mentioned today will help you, right, in starting that one habit of being mindful. Now, remember that mindfulness is not just about emptying your mind. It's learning to observe your thoughts. It's learning to feel your emotions with curiosity and compassion, right? Without judgment, without fear, and understanding yourself better. Because by incorporating these mindfulness activities in your daily life, it puts you in a better position to be in the moment, to be where you are at the moment, so you can enjoy that moment with the people around you, whether they're colleagues, whether they're family members, whether they're loved ones, right? And remember, here at Empower and Evolve, our goal is to help you become a better version of you. And thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Stay safe. Catch you next week. Bye for now. Hey buddy, thank you for joining us on this transformative journey of empowerment and growth. Now remember, it's not just about evolving. It's about embracing that incredible power within you to become the best version of yourself. Keep striving for greatness, because together, we can create a world where empowerment knows no bounds. And if you find value in today's episode, please subscribe, rate, and share this podcast with someone who could use that little inspiration. Until next time, stay empowered, stay inspired, and keep shining brightly on your path to evolution. With Empower and Evolve, you have the tools to unleash your potential and rewrite your story. Let's continue to evolve together.